Peace and love supreme. Namaskaram. Today I'm going to share in a short video the supreme wisdom of Swami Vivekananda. And he's known for bringing Hinduism to the West. But actually, he brought the yogic sciences to the West. And he predicted and preceded Swami Yogananda, Paramahamsa Yogananda, who founded the Self-Realization Fellowship in around 1920 on the West Coast in Encinitas, California, and later on founded a branch in Los Angeles. The yogic sciences go back thousands of years, and it was actually what Buddha Shakyamuni of the Gautama clan taught. He taught just a few aspects of the yogic sciences, but what he taught was enough. But for those who really want to go deep and who want to accelerate their practice, for those who are simply avid seekers of truth, who are non-sectarian, who love learning and want to evolve their conscious, then they can go deeper into the yogic sciences, and that wouldn't be possible here in the West without Swami Vivekananda, who was born Narendranath Datta. He was Bengali in Bengal, and he was a student of Swami Ramakrishna. You should study the life of these saintly, mystical, wise human beings, for they show us the possibility of human potentiality to go far above our animal nature, to be divine, luminous beings. And I don't mean that in a traditional religious sense. I mean beings who are hyper-intelligent, who are hyper-aware, who are compassionate and empathetic, beings who radiate like the sun light, beings who nurture others well via their mere presence. And so he came to the West in 1893 in Chicago, at the Parliament of the World's Religions. And at some point in time in his life, I don't remember the exact date, but it's mentioned in an autobiography of a yogi written by Swami Paramahamsa Yogananda, that he predicted that Swami Yogananda would come to the West and spread the yogic sciences, not just Hinduism. Most people only think of Hinduism when they see the dot between the eyebrows. The significance of that could be talked about in a series of videos by several people more qualified than me. So I won't go into that realm. I won't dive down that rabbit hole now. So without further ado, I will share some quotes from Swami Vivekananda and share my humble insights. The yogi must always practice. He should try to live alone. The companionship of different sorts of people distracts the mind. Is this a unique statement? Now I know for certain that in early Buddhism, in the Pali Canon, the Buddha, the awakened one, frequently talks about dwelling alone at the foot of a tree, an empty dwelling place in the forests. And he also talked about, interestingly, listen to this term, viveka, seclusion. Swami Vivekananda means the bliss of seclusion, blissful solitude. Buddha talked about chitta viveka and kaya viveka. Kaya viveka means bodily seclusion, literally being alone, physically isolated from other people. And that's what you get in this quote, he should try to live alone. But the higher form of seclusion, which leads to liberation, is chitta viveka. That means wherever you are, your mind is free. It is released. It is not attached. It is not grasping onto the objects of the senses. But most of us can't do that, and so it's good for us to be alone. Different sorts of people distracts the mind, Swami Vivekananda says. Now we know this is obvious from our experience, whether we like to be around a particular person or not, it distracts the mind. Because when you sit alone, especially when your eyes are closed, you cut off visual input, you become more aware of bodily sensations, feeling tones, emotions, and your thoughts, imagination, memories, etc. That's a lot to deal with. So, coupled with different people around adds more to the maelstrom of the mind, more content that must be released. And so it's wise to be alone for a long time. So the yogi must always practice. He should try to live alone. The companionship of different sorts of people distracts the mind. This is a statement that must be verified via experience. You must know the truth of this statement. It can't just be intellectual. Go on retreats, dedicate a certain amount of time every day to be alone. For some people that means only 20 or 30 minutes if you are a parent, if you are a professional, a student, but just 20 to 30 minutes, 40 minutes, maybe an hour a day. Turn off your phone, your tablet, your computer, sit in the dark room, sit out in your yard, sit at the park in nature, and just be still and let go of thinking. When thinking comes, just let go. When imagination appears, watch it dissolve. This is solitude. Then your mind won't be as distracted as much as it usually is. He should not speak much, because to speak distracts the mind. Not work much, because too much work distracts the mind. The mind cannot be controlled after a whole day's hard work. Now, anyone who has participated in a 3 to 7 day or longer meditation retreat knows how difficult it is for the mind to calm down during several formal meditation sessions. And this is in a context intentionally set up so that someone can enter into a tranquil mind, which reveals a lucid mind. So, less work and less speech, because when you talk, there's associativity. That entails memory. That entails implicit association bias, liking or disliking what is said, thinking about what to say as a response, in many cases before someone finishes speaking. This is what can be observed just through mindfulness. So I'm reminded of a quote from the great Thai forest master Ajahn Chah, and I'm paraphrasing. He talked about just rightness regarding food, but you can apply that to everything. Just the right amount of work to get the right amount of money you need to pay your bills and to have money left over to invest in retirement. If you are a householder, a layperson, if you are a monastic, a yogi, a contemplative, then you should question the work that you do. Being lazy is unskillful, but definitely in my experience of being in different monasteries, a lot of monks I've met and nuns engage in unnecessary work due to restlessness. Not because they want to work, but because they are restless and they don't like sitting still and being quiet. And so do what needs to be done, and when there's nothing else to do, or if there's nothing to do, then you can just be. Just let go and relax. The most difficult thing to do is to just be. Not fiddling on the phone, not browsing through social media feeds, but just sitting and enjoying what it feels like to be in the body and breathe, and also knowing that you are the witness of the body, the witness of respiration, the witness of the myriad appearances in consciousness, including what you call myself, the self, personality. So speaking less, working less, and then you'll see that the mind is easily calm, and clear. The mind easily enters into samadhi, a elementary level of samadhi, unification of mind. And then it can go into deeper levels of samadhi, which doesn't just entail concentration. Focus or concentration is an aspect of attention. When you put your attention on something, then the mind is focused. But that's just one aspect of samadhi. But I'll talk about that in a different video. So he or she should not speak much, because to speak distracts the mind, not work much, because too much work distracts the mind. The mind cannot be controlled after a whole day's hard work. These are the words of Swami Vivekananda, and I know these words to be true via my direct experience of life on a day-to-day basis. All of you know that certain persons, certain places, certain foods repel you. Avoid them. And those who want to go to the highest must avoid all company, good or bad. Now, anyone with experience in practicing the various qualities we call mindfulness, alertness, clear comprehension, wise attention or careful attention, and cultivating virtuous habits. These are the essential aspects of mindfulness. Those with this experience will understand what Swami Vivekananda is talking about, but only when you are truly mindful, aware of your mind and your environment, and how certain thoughts and certain actions of body, speech, and mind affect the quality of your stream of consciousness, will you understand what Swami is talking about here. And when you understand what Swami is talking about, you'll know that even good company disturbs the mind. Why? Because of our habit of latching on to things or avoiding things, anxiety towards things we don't like, towards stressful situations, and attachment to favorable conditions. Only by being alone for days or weeks or months will you know what Swami is talking about here. And so this statement will touch the heart/mind of someone who really wants to be liberated, someone who is a sincere seeker and practitioner. Otherwise, it's just intriguing words from some strange-looking man with a sheet wrapped around his head. But Swami Vivekananda was surely an amazing being. I really love this quote right here. Swami Vivekananda says, "When one begins to concentrate, the dropping of a pin will sound like a thunderbolt going through the brain. As the organs get finer, the perceptions get finer." Now here's an interesting anecdote. Actually, it happens every time I'm in a meditation session in a group or even alone. And all meditators will know what I'm talking about. This is the sound of the movement of saliva when swallowing, oftentimes unconsciously during meditation, that sound. And it's very loud when everyone is trying to be as quiet and still as possible. Oftentimes this distracts meditators, and we may think, oh, I can't meditate well, I'm focused on this sound. But actually you're being more alert. We are more aware when the mind is quiet, and the dropping of a pin will seem like a thunderbolt going through the brain. The sound of one swallowing sounds like the splashing of water in a sink. This is a good sign. Perceptions are getting finer, and they will become finer and finer, or more subtle and subtle, until one can scarcely detect breathing, but there's a clear awareness of respiration. This is a good sign, by the way. What Swami didn't say here is that when the perceptions get finer, you know you're entering into samadhi. So when someone says, oh, I blacked out, someone told me a couple of weeks ago that when he meditates, sometimes he blacks out or he'll just see whiteness. And I said, that's not the right samadhi. That's not the correct meditation that the awakened one, Buddha, Shakyamuni taught, nor Swami Vivekananda, nor any genuine yogi. Perceptions become finer. Sometimes you may not know if there is a particular perception, but awareness is always lucid when the mind is tranquil. Buddha called it vipassana, clear seeing. So, as Swami Vivekananda says, quote, these are the stages through which we have to pass. And all those who persevere will succeed. Give up all argumentation and other distractions. So, back to some of the other statements I shared. Distractions, good or bad company. And so you should be alone. Now, this is easy for a lot of introverted people. I used to describe myself as an introvert, but I've transcended that notion, that idea, that proclivity, just through opening up in a community context to other people. And now I'm not either an extrovert or introvert. I simply adapt as needed to different conditions. So, give up all argumentation, Swami says. All argumentation. My religion is true. Those religions are false. All religions are false. A statement I used to say as an atheist before Buddhism. And there is some truth to that on a certain level, but it's all relatively true. If you say that all of what you read about in the various texts that all religions esteem as the word of their supreme being or their last prophet or their savior, if you take all of that literally, then yes, any rational person with a scientific background who is well educated will say it's false. But if you understand what Jordan Peterson called fiction truth, you'll know that what is important is the message, the essence. What is the story pointing to? What are the texts pointing to in a given religion? And look for the truth therein. And then you'll see there's no need to argue about anything. Sometimes there is a time and place for debate, the art of debate. And that was done in India for thousands of years, and it's still taking place now, where even Buddha Shakyamuni used to debate. Not a lot, but sometimes he would debate so that he could sharpen people's reason so they could discover the truth for themselves. But other than that, there's no need to argue most of the time, pretty much all of the time. It's unnecessary. And realizing that even good company is a distraction will accelerate your conscious evolution. These are the stages through which we have to pass, Swami Vivekananda says. And it's true because anyone considered to be awakened teaches the same truth. You'll find this all throughout early Buddhism. In Mahayana, you'll find it, but it's not as explicit in Mahayana Buddhism because the focus is on community and helping every being awaken, which has become a dogma for many practitioners. So even Mahayana Buddhism, the masters of various Mahayana Buddhist traditions will agree with this statement. Namely, there are stages through which we all have to pass, and they entail being alone, avoiding even good company, and giving up all argumentation and distractions. And you'll know just through being mindful what is or isn't a distraction. This is the way to success, and this is the way great spiritual giants are produced. Others are mere talking machines. If we really want to be blessed and make others blessed, we must go deeper, says Swami Vivekananda. Now I'm reminded of a statement from His Holiness the Dalai Lama regarding blessing. He says, quote, "Let me begin by explaining what we mean by blessing when we talk about a Lama's blessing. When we talk about a Lama's blessing or the blessing of the Dharma in the Buddhist context, blessing must arise from within your own mind. It is not something that comes from outside, even though we talk about a Lama's blessing or the blessing of the three objects of refuge. When the positive qualities of your mind increase and negativities decrease, that is what blessing means," close quote, His Holiness the Dalai Lama. So when Swami Vivekananda says, if we really want to be blessed, he's talking about increasing the qualities, wholesome qualities, skillful qualities of the mind. That makes others blessed. That is, it increases or nourishes wholesome, skillful qualities in their mind stream as well. And then he says, we must go deeper. So Swami Vivekananda says go deeper than just being blessed and making others blessed. This is the way great spiritual giants are produced, he claims. Others are mere talking machines. Now, I definitely do not want to be a mere talking machine. This is why I limit my usage of social media. This is why I intentionally do not post consecutively, day to day. You'll notice that my videos come about 7 days apart, usually longer than that, so that I have time to live what I'm talking about, sharing from my heart, from direct experience, so that I'm not an armchair theorist, as certain scientists say about theoreticians. So if we don't want to be a mere talking machine, and no one wants to be known as just a talker, we want to communicate and interact with people who live what they profess, no matter what type of lifestyle you're living. Even gangsters talk about fake gangsters, you know. Don't talk about it, be about it, they used to say. There's an old saying in the streets, don't talk about it, be about it. So everyone wants authenticity. What you talk about, we want to see in your actions. What I talk about, I'm committed to living. That's how we become blessed and make others blessed. And then we must go deeper. Now, this next statement is something that I've been dealing with for quite some time. It is a habit energy, as you'll see, that we all have, even those of us on the spiritual path as monks, as contemplatives, as yogis. He says, quote, "Never talk about the faults of others. No matter how bad they may be, nothing is ever gained by that. Never talk about the faults of others, no matter how bad they may be. Nothing is ever gained by that." So sometimes we think we're being skillful when we point out someone's mistakes, but it's even more skillful to see if that mistake is present within yourself. For example, if I see someone wearing their robe in a sloppy manner, or not being mindful, clearly because they're making too much noise when they eat or talking too loud at inappropriate times, instead of talking about it, instead of pointing it out, I can simply just be aware of that unskillful action so that I do not replicate that unskillful action. And it's as simple as that. Just practice turning your attention inward. As we used to say as kids, when you point one finger towards someone, when you point a finger towards someone, there are 3 more pointing back at you. So pay attention to where the other 3 fingers are pointing. 1 pointing outward, 3 pointing backward or inward. Focus on your own actions. We must focus on our own actions. We must focus on our own actions. Now this last statement, which will be the final statement that I'm going to comment on for this video, is, quote, "Never quarrel about religion. All quarrels and disputation concerning religion simply show that spirituality is not present." So first let me unpack this statement, which is a diamond statement. It cuts through. A diamond is that which cuts and cannot be cut. So this qualifies as a diamond statement. Imagine if every human being did not quarrel or argue about religion. Then there would be no Islamic State. There would be no Taliban. There would be no Christian fanaticism. There would be no problem in Myanmar with the Buddhist monks there killing Rohingya refugees, Muslim refugees. And he says that this shows that spirituality is not present when someone quarrels about religion, argues about creeds. Buddha talked about non-attachment to views, even correct views. So if you know that you are living in accord with the truth, you still do not have to beat people over the head with a cudgel, with your view, true or false, as a cudgel. You don't have to hit people upside the head with it. So that would solve myriad problems on the planet, just by not quarreling, not arguing, not engaging in disputation concerning religion. Now, what is spirituality? Etymologically, it comes from the Latin spiritus and spirare, one term meaning breath, the other term meaning to breathe, which means being. When you are simply being and breathing, merely existing, without thinking, without clinging, without any aversions, then there's no need to quarrel about anything, because the truth is apparent, just as apparent as this hand I'm holding in front of my face. No need to argue about it. It simply is. It is an appearance, noticeable, clear. Just as clear as my hand is appearing in front of my face and to you, those of you watching this video. So too, everything can be this clear, and there's no need to say anything about it. You just merely exist with awareness, with a mind that is tranquil and lucid, as I said in many videos. This is the higher path. This is what is meant by going deeper, which Swami Vivekananda alluded to in the earlier statement. So reflect upon these words, and we will guide you towards freedom and liberation. We will practice together in harmony. Namaskaram, Sadhu, Om Shanti Om.